There is a hank of beard, which is kept at the convent of the white nuns in the far mountains. How it came to the convent, no one knows. Some say it was the nuns who buried what was left of his body, for no one else would touch it. Why the nuns would keep such a relic is unknown, but it is true. My friend's friend has seen it with her own eyes. She says the beard is blue, indigo colored to be exact. It is as blue as the dark ice in the lake, as blue as the shadow of a hole at night. This beard was once worn by one who they say was a failed magician, a giant man with an eye for women, a man known by the name of Bluebeard. It was said he courted 3 sisters at the same time, but they were frightened of his beard with its odd blue cast, and so they hid when he called. In an effort to convince them of his geniality, he invited them on an outing in the forest. He arrived, leading horses arrayed in bells. He set the sisters and their mother upon the horses, and off they cantered into the forest. There they had a most wonderful day riding, and their dogs ran beside and ahead. Later they stopped beneath a giant tree, and Bluebeard regaled them with stories and fed them dainty treats. The sisters began to think, well, perhaps this man Bluebeard is not so bad after all. They returned home all a chatter about how interesting the day had been. And did they not have a good time? Yet the 2 older sisters' suspicions and fears returned, and they vowed not to see Bluebeard again. But the youngest sister thought, if a man could be that charming, then perhaps he was not that bad. The more she talked to herself, the less awful he seemed, and also the less blue his beard. So when Bluebeard asked for her hand in marriage, she accepted. She had given his proposal great thought and felt she was to marry a very elegant man. Marry they did, and after rode off to his castle in the woods. One day he came to her and said, I must go away for a time. Invite your family here if you like. You may ride in the woods, charge the cooks to set for a feast. You may do anything you like, anything your heart desires. In fact, here is my ring of keys. You may open any and every door to the storerooms, the money rooms, any door in the castle. But this little key, the tiny one, the one with the scrollwork on top, do not use. His bride replied, yes, I will do as you ask. It all sounds very fine. So go, my dear husband, and do not have a worry, and come back soon. And so off he rode, and she stayed. Her sisters came to visit, and they were, as all souls are, very curious about what the master had said was to be done while he was away. The young wife gaily told them. He said, we may do anything we desire and enter any room we wish to, except one. But I don't know which one it is. I just have a key, and I don't know which door it fits. The sisters decided to make a game of finding which key fit which door. The castle was 3 stories high, with 100 doors in each wing, and as there were many keys on the ring, they crept from door to door, having an immensely good time throwing open each door. Behind one door were kitchen stores, behind another the money stores. All manner of holdings were behind the doors, and everything seemed more wonderful at the time. At last, having seen all these marvels, they came finally to the cellar, and at the end of the corridor a blank wall. They puzzled over the last key, the one with the little scrollwork on top. Maybe this key doesn't fit anything at all. As they said this, they heard an odd sound. They peeked around the corner, and lo and behold, there was a small door just closing. When they tried to open it again, it was firmly locked. One cried, Sister, sister, bring your key. Surely this is the door for that mysterious little key. Without a thought, one of the sisters put the key in the door and turned it. The lock scolded, the door swung open, but it was so dark inside they could not see. Sister, sister, bring a candle. So a candle was lit and held into the room, and all 3 women screamed at once, for in the room was a mire of blood, and the blackened bones of corpses were flung about, and skulls were stacked in corners like pyramids of apples. They slammed the door shut, shook the key out of the lock, and leaned against one another, gasping, breasts heaving. My God, my God. The wife looked down at the key and saw it was stained with blood. Horrified, she used the skirt of her gown to wipe it clean. But the blood prevailed. Oh no, she cried. Each sister took the tiny key in her hands and tried to make it as it once was, but the blood remained. The wife hid the tiny key in her pocket and ran to the cook's kitchen. When she arrived, her white dress was stained red from pocket to hem, for the key was slowly weeping drops of dark red blood. She ordered the cook, "Quick, give me some horsehair." She scoured the key, but it would not stop bleeding. Drop after drop, pure red blood issued from the tiny key. She took the key outdoors, and from the oven she pressed ashes onto it and scrubbed some more. She held it to the heat to sear it. She laid cobweb over it to staunch the flow, but nothing could make the weeping blood subside. "Oh, what am I to do?" she cried. "I know. I'll put the little key away. I put it in the wardrobe. I'll close the door. This is a bad dream. All will be all right." And this she did do. Her husband came home the very next morning, and he strode into the castle calling for his wife. "Well, how was it while I was away?" "It was fine, sir." "And how are my storerooms?" he rumbled. "Very fine, sir." "And how are my money rooms?" he growled. "The money rooms are very fine also, sir. So everything is good, wife?" "Yes, everything is good." "Well," he whispered, "then you'd best return my keys." With a glance he saw a key was missing. "Where is the smallest key?" I lost it. Yes, I lost it. I was out riding and the key ring fell down and I must have lost the key." "What have you done with it, woman?" I don't remember." "Don't lie to me. Tell me what you did with that key." He put his hand to her face as if to caress her cheek, but instead seized her hair. "You infidel," he snarled, and threw her to the floor. "You've been into the room, haven't you?" He threw open the wardrobe, and the little key on the top shelf had bled blood red down all the beautiful silks of her gowns hanging there. "Now it's your turn, my lady," he screamed, and dragged her down the hall, into the cellar, till they were before the terrible door. Bluebeard merely looked at the door with his fiery eyes, and the door opened for him. There lay the skeletons of all his previous wives. "And now," he roared. But she caught hold of the door frame and would not let go. She pleaded for her life. "Please, please, allow me to compose myself and prepare for my death. Give me but a quarter hour before you take my life, so I can make my peace with God." "All right," he snarled. "You have but a quarter of an hour, but be ready." The wife raced up the stairs to her chamber and posted her sisters on the castle ramparts. She knelt to pray, but instead called out to her sisters. "Sisters, sisters, do you see your brothers coming?" "We see nothing, nothing on the open plains." Every few moments she cried up to the ramparts. "Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming?" "We see a whirlwind, perhaps a dust devil in the distance." Meanwhile, Bluebeard roared for his wife to come to the cellar so he could behead her. Again she called out, "Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming?" Bluebeard shouted for his wife again and began to clump up the stone steps. Her sisters cried out, "Yes, we see them. Our brothers are here, and they have just entered the castle." Bluebeard strode down the hall towards his wife's chamber. "I am coming to get you," he bellowed. His footfalls were dense. The rocks in the hallway came loose. The sand from the mortar poured on the floor. As Bluebeard lumbered into her chamber with his hands outstretched to seize her, her brothers on horseback galloped down the castle hallway and charged into her room as well. There they routed Bluebeard out onto the parapet. There and then with swords they advanced upon him, striking and slashing, cutting and whipping, beating Bluebeard down to the ground, killing him at last, and leaving for the buzzards his blood and gristle. That was a pretty intense story, and exactly because of that, it's one of my favorite stories from the book Women Who Run with Wolves. As I said earlier in previous videos, I really love this book because it explains the different female archetypes, specifically the wild part of the feminine, which I'm super interested in. So I highly advise you to read that book. And there are so many symbols and things in this book Specifically in the story, it's about the archetype of the dark man, which is typically something like a predatory force. It can be a predatory man, or it can be an actual predator that is trying to destroy, kill, subdue something that is pure and light and alive. As is described in the story, Bluebeard is a failed magician, and the book itself explores this a little bit more to what that means, and it comes to the conclusion basically that a failed magician is someone who tried to become something great but failed. Therefore, he's this resentful character that doesn't want to help other people become great, but is jealous of greatness and purity and life, and therefore wants to destroy everything. The key part is that there is this aspect within ourselves, and there is this aspect in the outside world. In the outside world, you might experience that as a toxic partner, or someone who, at least in the story, someone that you can feel from the start there's something off, but you go against your intuition and engage with this person only to later find out that it was the wrong move. And I really like this quote in the book that says, "When a youthful spirit marries the predator, she is captured or restrained during a time in her life that was meant to be an unfoldment. Instead of living freely, she begins to live falsely. The deceitful promise of the predator is that the woman will become a queen in some way, when in fact, her murder is being planned." So she's expecting that by marrying this person, her life will be enriched and she will rise in status, perhaps. But the opposite is true. And the interesting thing is that somehow, deep down, she already knew it. The reader already knew it from how the story was set up. Which brings me to the next very interesting part of the story, which is the small key. The key represents actually the gateway towards this unconscious piece of knowledge that is already there, but it gives you the permission to access that deepest, darkest part of your unconscious. And of course, Bluebeard doesn't want you to access that. He wants to keep you in this already artificial constraint where you are not allowed to grow and develop, under the premise that you have everything that you need, don't worry about it. Yeah, I just really, really love this story. There's so much depth into it, and there's much more to discover and discuss. If you like this kind of video where perhaps I tell a story from the book and then go deeper into it, or you would like me to deep dive into this specific story, let me know in the comments. I would enjoy going either way. So please let me know which way I should go. If you liked the video, give this video a like. And above all, don't forget to have a nice day.